It started with a voicemail. Not the kind you expect. Not a butt dial. Not a work call. Not even the usual chirpy, "Hey babe, call me when you can." No. This one was 2 minutes and 17 seconds long, and it didn't have her voice in it at all. Just a man's. And laughter. And breathing. And her name moaned. Not spoken. That was the moment the sky split open. I had been working in the garage, tinkering with the busted radiator from her car. The same car I'd been keeping alive with duct tape and YouTube tutorials for the past 6 months. My phone buzzed on the workbench. A new voicemail from Vera, my wife. I hit play, wiping grease off my hands with the corner of my shirt. I remember exactly how the wind outside stopped blowing when it started. Like the world knew something I didn't. Like even the trees were holding their breath. At first it was muffled. Some background clatter, faint music, indistinct talking, then laughter. Not hers. His. Then silence. Then her name. I froze. I didn't replay it. I didn't need to. My brain, my stomach, my lungs. They all understood something my heart hadn't caught up to yet. She was cheating on me. And worse, she didn't even bother to hide it anymore. He had her phone. Or she gave it to him. Either way, I wasn't even an afterthought. I sat down on the cold garage floor, right there on the oil stain I'd promised to clean last weekend. I sat there for what felt like hours, holding that phone like it was still ringing, like it owed me more answers. But nothing else came. No texts, no follow-up call, just silence. Like she knew the bomb had dropped and didn't even care to check the damage. Here's the thing. I didn't confront her. Not that night, not the next morning. I didn't scream or cry or break things, even though I wanted to do all three. What I did was much quieter. I waited. I watched. I studied her the way a surgeon studies a tumor. She had no idea I knew. She came home like nothing had happened, kissed me on the cheek, said traffic was hell, ate the dinner I made, laughed at a show we used to love, and all I could think was, "You're not mine anymore, are you?" That week, I made a plan. I emptied a separate savings account I had opened before we got married. The one she never knew about. I packed a duffel with the basics and left it in my trunk. I created a new email, canceled shared subscriptions, wiped my backup drives, changed my passwords. I didn't sleep. I barely blinked. I just planned. On a Thursday morning, while she was in the shower singing along to some indie pop song I suddenly hated, I stood in the hallway and stared at the closed bathroom door. And I knew this was it. I walked out. Quiet, clean, gone. I vanished. No note, no voicemail, no dramatic text, just absence. I drove 16 hours west, changed my name at a gas station while paying cash for a motel. For nearly 2 years, I've lived off the grid in a town with one diner, no stoplight, and no cell service unless you stand on a stump behind the post office. I learned to chop wood. I read books with no covers. I stopped looking in mirrors. I thought the silence would save me. But 3 days ago, it rang again. A new voicemail. Her voice this time. "I found you. Please don't hang up. I didn't want to hear it. I swear I didn't. For nearly 2 years, I'd lived like a ghost, a man without a past. And hearing her voice again felt like someone cracking open a coffin I'd buried with my own hands. But the message was there, blinking on the ancient landline I'd only kept for emergencies. No one even knew the number. No one should have. But Vera did. Her voice was thinner than I remembered, like it had been crying before dialing. "Callum, I know you don't want to hear from me. I wouldn't be calling unless I had to. You're not safe. I should have deleted it right then. I should have ripped the cord out of the wall and thrown the phone into the woods. But I didn't. I just stood there, the phone trembling slightly in my hand, listening to the rest of the message like it was a slow dripping poison. I couldn't stop swallowing. I don't care if you hate me. I probably deserve worse than that. But this isn't about us. Someone came looking for you. Not me. The man I was with. The one I thought I knew. He's not who he said he was. Cal, I think I got him way too deep. And now he's coming after you too. Please, call me back. Just this once. The line went dead. But the storm inside me had just begun. I didn't believe her. Not entirely. Vera always knew how to twist the truth just enough to make it feel like a lifeline. That's what manipulators do. They drip panic into your bloodstream so you come running back into their fire, thinking it's warmth. But even as I told myself she was lying, my hands were already moving, searching my small cabin for anything out of place. And that's when I found it. A shoe print. Not mine. Right outside the back window, in the frozen dirt, half covered by last night's frost, but definitely fresh. That cabin was 30 meters from the nearest paved road. Nobody just wanders past it. You don't accidentally end up on that land unless you're looking for something. Or someone. My pulse went wild. I packed the essentials in seconds. The cash, the IDs, the emergency bag, everything I swore I'd never touch again. I left behind the wood I'd chopped for the next storm. The mug I always used. Even the carved raven statue I'd made during the first winter when loneliness still felt like a choice. I got in the truck and drove. No destination, no plan. Just away. But the problem with trying to disappear is you can never run from memory. And as the miles stretched out, the memories came back with them. The night I left, her perfume still hanging in the air, her laptop open on the counter, left on a chat window I was never meant to see. A message from the man she once called just a friend. I remembered the name. Marcus. A stupid name for a stupid man. But I remembered it. And now, 2 years later, it wasn't just a ghost. It was a threat. If she was telling the truth, if Marcus Hale was something darker than just a cheating partner, then I hadn't escaped. I just hit the snooze button on a bomb I didn't know I was carrying. And worst of all, part of me, the pathetic broken part that still remembered how her lips tasted when she lied, wanted to see her again, not to forgive, not to fix things, but to finally understand what the hell she dragged me into. And if I was walking into a trap, then so be it. Because I'd rather face the monster head-on than spend one more night wondering if the next knock on the door is the last sound I'll ever hear. I didn't head straight to her. That would have been too easy and too stupid. Instead, I drove 4 towns over to a library that still had paper card catalogs and used their dusty public terminal to check something I hadn't thought about since the day I vanished. Marcus H. I figured I'd find a generic guy with a private Instagram and a few gym selfies. But no. Marcus Hale, 36. Multiple LLCs, all dissolved. A fraud investigation from 3 years back, closed without resolution. A sealed court record. A woman named Diane Crowley, who had filed a restraining order against him 2 years ago, then dropped it suddenly a month later. Then nothing. As if he'd vanished too. Until now. I closed the browser, heart thudding. This wasn't just some sleazy affair anymore. There was something in the silence and something dangerous. And whether I liked it or not, Vera had dragged me back into it. So yes, I went back. Not to our old house. She'd sold that place 6 months after I left. No, I tracked her to a condo downtown. A building with underground parking and those sleek steel doors that look like vaults. I didn't knock. I waited outside in the rain for 2 hours until she finally came out, holding a broken umbrella and wearing a black coat I didn't recognize. She didn't see me at first. I stepped out of the shadows and said her name. She froze. I didn't expect the tears. I didn't expect the way she looked smaller, like someone had squeezed the fight out of her. This wasn't the smug, dismissive woman I'd left behind. She looked haunted. Cal, she whispered. Just that. Not, I'm sorry. Not please come back. Not I missed you. Just my name, like she'd forgotten how it tasted. I didn't let her speak first. I had too much rage balled up inside me. Too much rot that needed air. I told her I got the voicemail. That I knew she was lying or half lying. which might be worse. I asked her why Marcus was suddenly a threat if 2 years ago he'd been her perfect escape. I asked her if she was still sleeping with him. And I'll never forget her answer. He disappeared after you did. At first I thought he just ghosted me. But then weird things started happening. Someone broke into my car. My neighbor's cat was found dead on my porch. My old high school photos were emailed to my work inbox from an address called Marcus Hunting Down at... She trailed off. It's not just me anymore. He's spiraling. He thinks I helped you hide, that I'm protecting you. I wanted to laugh. The idea that she, of all people, was my protector was almost too ridiculous to handle. But something about her eyes shut me up. They weren't pleading. They were terrified. And I'd seen Vera fake a lot of emotions over the years. But fear, no. She never faked that. She hated looking weak. I asked her what she wanted from me. Her answer, I need you to disappear further, or help me stop him. Both options felt like death, but then she said something I didn't expect. He said your name last week, Cal. Full name. And your mother's. He knows you didn't just vanish. He knows you're alive. And that's when I knew. This wasn't about old wounds anymore. This was about survival. I didn't want to step inside. Every instinct screamed at me to turn around and disappear all over again. But Vera was already unlocking the door, and some pathetic part of me followed like a dog to a voice it used to trust. I told myself it was strategy, that I needed to see for myself what she was involved in. But deep down, I think I needed proof that she was just as ruined as I was. Her apartment was dim, too clean. Not a speck of dust. Not a picture frame out of place. But it didn't feel like a home. It felt like a set. Something curated. Something scrubbed. I don't sleep here every night anymore, she said quietly, as if that explained why the air felt so cold. He knows where I live. I think he's been inside. I scanned the place. The couch was new, the artwork impersonal. The only thing familiar was a chipped mug on the kitchen counter. My mug, the one I'd left behind in our old place. The one she used to say reminded her of our first camping trip. She must have brought it here after I vanished. And suddenly, I didn't know how to feel. She poured herself a drink. Not tea, not water, whiskey. Vera never used to drink hard liquor. I watched her swallow it down like medicine. And that's when I realized she was unraveling too. What exactly did he say? I asked, keeping my voice steady. You said he mentioned me. How? Why? She set the glass down and pulled out a small lockbox from under the couch. Unlocked it. Inside were printed emails, photos, even an old driver's license with my face on it, but a different name. One of the fake ones I'd used to rent a cabin. There was no way she could have found that on her own. He has access to something I don't understand, she said, handing me one of the photos. It was grainy, zoomed in, me chopping wood behind my cabin. My beard was shorter in it, so it had to be at least a year old. He's been tracking you longer than I have. I only found you because he slipped up and mentioned a detail I recognized. I sat down, the walls closing in. How does he know all this? I asked. She hesitated, and that pause, that millisecond of silence, was the moment I knew. There was more. I didn't know at first, she whispered, but I think he used me to get to you from the beginning. That sentence shattered something in me I didn't even know was still intact. What the hell does that mean, Vera? My voice cracked. You were sleeping with him. Don't act like you were some pawn in his game. She didn't defend herself. That almost made it worse. He knew everything about you, she said. Your routines, the projects you worked on, your passwords. I thought it was just tech-savvy flirtation, but now I think he planted himself in my life just to get close to you. And that's when the pit in my stomach dropped. Because 5 years ago, before I ever met Vera, I had worked briefly on a classified back-end server at a defense contracting firm. Nothing huge, nothing top secret, just back-end support for a security framework. I barely touched it, signed NDAs, and forgot about it. But what if someone didn't? What if Marcus had been watching since then? I stood up, dizzy. Vera looked at me with something like regret, or maybe fear. Cal, I don't think he just wants to find you. I think he wants to ruin you. I didn't respond. I went to her bedroom, drawn by something I couldn't explain. And there, sitting on her nightstand, was something I never expected to see. A burner phone, still powered on, still warm. I opened the last message. It was from a number with no name, just an area code I recognized from the place I once disappeared to. He's here. Those 2 words sent something primal shooting down my spine. He's here. No name, no timestamp, just dread. I stared at the screen, trying to figure out if it was meant for Vera, or if whoever sent it had confused her phone with mine, or if someone somehow knew I was standing there in her bedroom reading it right now. I turned to confront her, but she was already behind me in the doorway. Pale, silent, eyes fixed on the phone like it had just crawled out of her nightmares. "It's from Diane," she whispered. "The woman who filed the restraining order. I reached out last week, but she never responded, not until now." I felt the air thicken around us. "You didn't think to mention that before?" I snapped. "You just left that phone lying there like it's your backup Spotify account?" She didn't argue. She just walked past me, picked the phone out of my hands, and stared at the message again like it would change. "She's in Harlow," Vera said quietly. "That's 20 minutes from your old cabin. If she saw him, he's close." Everything in me screamed to leave, to drive and drive, until every trace of this past, this woman, this chaos, was behind me again. But instead, I found myself doing the opposite. I was sitting in her passenger seat 15 minutes later as she sped through the midnight city like a getaway driver in slow motion. Neither of us spoke. We didn't have to. We were both listening for the same thing. Sirens, footsteps, phone rings. Something. Harlow was a half-dead town with 1 gas station and a diner that still used laminated menus. But the place Diane lived, it was worse. A sagging trailer at the end of a gravel road, surrounded by knee-high weeds and complete silence. No lights, no movement. I wanted to turn around. I should have. But Vera was already stepping out of the car, calling Diane's name like she didn't care who else was listening. I followed, heart punching against my ribs. We knocked. No answer. And then we heard it. A phone ringing. Inside. Not hers. Not mine. We tried the door. Unlocked. The place smelled like metal and mold. Every window was covered, blankets duct taped to the frames. Whoever lived here had either been hiding or preparing for something. We followed the sound to the back bedroom. The phone stopped ringing just as we reached the doorway. On the bed sat a flip phone, still glowing. Next to it, a half-packed duffel bag and a photo of me. The same grainy one from the cabin. Only this one had red marker across my face. An X. I heard Vera whisper something, but it was drowned out by the noise in my head. My own heartbeat, so loud it felt like footsteps. I turned toward the closet. The door was cracked open. And then the shadows moved. I yanked Vera back just as the closet burst open. A figure lunged. Not Marcus, not anyone I recognized. Just a man. Pale, glassy-eyed, drenched in sweat, wielding something shiny. I only saw it flash once before we both stumbled back down the narrow hallway, tripping over crates, bumping into furniture. We slammed the front door shut and ran, not even looking back until we were inside the car. I locked it just as Vera hit the gas. My chest was burning. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely keep the wheel straight. "That wasn't him," I finally said. "That wasn't Marcus." She nodded, but he sent him. And in that moment, I knew. This wasn't just about a woman cheating on her husband anymore. This wasn't about jealousy or broken vows or revenge. This was something bigger, something coordinated, something I had been dragged into long before I ever met her. And now it wasn't just chasing me. It was hunting both of us. We didn't stop driving for over an hour. Neither of us spoke. Not out of tension, but because we couldn't figure out what to say without letting the panic show. Vera's fingers gripped the wheel so hard her knuckles turned white. I kept watching the side mirrors like they were windows into another dimension, expecting headlights that never came. The man in that trailer, he wasn't trying to rob us. He wasn't trying to scare us. He was trying to eliminate us. That X across my photo wasn't just a threat, it was a to-do list, and we had just interrupted it in progress. We finally pulled into a rundown motel outside the next county. One of those places where the vending machine flickers and the door locks feel like decoration. Still, it felt safer than being anywhere familiar. We checked in under fake names and dragged our tired bodies into a room that smelled like cigarette ghosts. I sat on the bed while Vera double-checked the locks twice. Then she opened her bag and pulled out something that made my heart crawl into my throat. Another photo. This one had her face on it. Same red X. "I found it in my mailbox last week," she said, voice hollow. "No envelope, just this. I didn't tell you earlier because I didn't want you to think I deserved it." I snatched it from her hand and stared at it like it might disappear if I looked hard enough. But it didn't. It just sat there, a cheap printout soaked in the kind of hatred that doesn't fade with time. "We need to go to the police," I said finally. She gave a bitter laugh. The kind that wasn't really a laugh at all. "I already did. You think they care? You think they're going to do anything about some anonymous creep mailing old pictures? They told me to change my locks and stop watching too many thrillers. I wanted to punch something. The wall, the mirror, myself. All those months I thought I was the coward for running, for leaving her behind. But the truth, she hadn't been living in freedom. She'd been stuck in a different kind of trap. One with invisible bars and no exits. And now, I was back inside it with her. I pulled out the burner phone again and looked at the message one more time. "He's here." The pronoun echoed in my head, like whoever he was didn't need a name anymore. Just a presence. "We need help," I muttered. "Someone outside the system. Someone who doesn't file reports. Someone who makes things disappear." Vera didn't even blink. "I know someone." Her response scared me more than I expected. She called him Crane, just that, no first name. Just said he used to work for a private intelligence firm, the kind that only gets mentioned when leaks happen or things go sideways overseas. She'd met him once at a security conference she attended with Marcus back when she still thought he was just a tech consultant. Crane had warned her subtly that Marcus's background was shallow, meaning it was probably fake. At the time, she thought he was just jealous. Now she wasn't so sure. We drove all night to a broken-down mechanic shop out near the state line. At first glance, it looked abandoned. But once Vera knocked 3 times on a steel side door and whispered something I couldn't hear, a slot opened and someone looked out. A minute later, the door creaked open. We were led inside. And that's when I saw him. Crane. Late 50s. Eyes like a winter storm. Not surprised to see us, like he'd already been waiting. He didn't ask questions. He just said one thing. "You're 2 moves behind." And he's already taken the next piece off the board. Then he handed us a photo. Not mine. Not hers. It was Diane Crowley. She was lying face down in the woods behind her trailer. We had been too late. I hadn't spoken to my brother in nearly 5 years. Not because of a fight, not even because of distance. Life just happened. He moved across the country, started a family, got busy. I disappeared into my own mess. I told myself I was protecting him by staying away. Now I wasn't so sure. Crane slid the folder across the table like he was handing over a loaded weapon. Inside were printed emails, surveillance photos, and a post-it with a handwritten name that made my chest cave in on itself. Owen Mercer, my brother, his address, his workplace, even a picture of his daughter, my niece, Nadia, walking to school. "I don't understand," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "He has nothing to do with any of this. He's not involved. He doesn't even know." Crane didn't look away. "That's the point. Marcus knows exactly where to hurt you. He's not after you. He's after the illusion of safety you've built. You took yourself off the board, so now he's dragging everyone else onto it. Vera's hand was shaking as she flipped through the photos. Her mouth opened like she wanted to apologize again. But I didn't want to hear it. Not now. Not while Owen's life was being treated like a bargaining chip. I felt the guilt crawl up my spine like cold water. I thought disappearing would end it. Instead, it just delayed the detonation. I looked at Crane. "Can you get us to him?" Quietly. He nodded. "But if Marcus is already watching, you've got a very short window to fix this before your brother ends up like Diane." That name still sat heavy in the room. We hadn't spoken about what we saw in that photo. No one said it aloud, but we all knew what it meant. Marcus wasn't playing games anymore. He was escalating fast. We left the garage an hour later in a different car. One Crane handed over like a final favor. "Don't call. Don't stop. Don't take side roads," he said as he opened the metal door for us. "And whatever happens, don't go alone." I drove while Vera sat beside me, her knees curled up, holding the folder like it might dissolve if she loosened her grip. The silence between us was unbearable, but I didn't have the strength to break it. Not until we were 5 miles from Owen's house. That's when we saw it. A black SUV parked diagonally across from his driveway. Engine off, no lights. A man in the driver's seat, head lowered, pretending to be asleep. But I knew better. That wasn't rest. That was a lookout. I killed the headlights and parked around the corner. Vera looked at me like I was already halfway gone. "You're not going in there alone," she said. "Yes, I am," I replied, already opening the door. "Callum," her voice was tight. "If he sees us both, he'll panic. He'll run, or he'll act. I need him to think I'm the only target in play." I didn't give her time to argue. I walked quickly but calmly toward the back of Owen's house, where I remembered the old tool shed door never quite latched properly. Still didn't. I slipped inside, moved through the dark like I'd never left, and reached the sliding glass door of his kitchen. They were inside, all 3 of them, Owen, his wife, and little Nadia, my niece. Watching some movie I didn't recognize. Laughing. God, they were laughing. I knocked. Owen froze. It took him a few seconds to recognize me. And when he did, the confusion didn't turn into joy. It turned into fear. He stepped outside immediately, shutting the door behind him, staring at me like I'd come back from the dead. "What the hell are you doing here?" he hissed. "Do you have any idea?" "The man across the street," I cut in. "He's watching you. He's not a cop. He's not a neighbor. He's with a man named Marcus Hale. And I think he's here to hurt your family because of me." I handed him the photo. The moment Owen saw Nadia in it, the color drained from his face. "I didn't ask for any of this," I said, voice cracking. "But now it's here, and I can't leave you in the dark. We need to go now. There's no more time." Behind us, the street was silent, but the front door of the SUV had just opened. The man stepped into the streetlight. He didn't draw a weapon, didn't shout, didn't rush, which somehow made it worse. Calculated. Calm. He wasn't here to scare. He was here to finish something. Owen stood frozen beside me, fists clenched, eyes flicking from the man to the photo still trembling in his hand. Inside the house, his wife was starting to open the door, unaware of the storm forming outside. "No," I said, grabbing Owen's arm. "Get them out the back. Now." He hesitated for a second, just long enough to make my heart seize, then ran through the house, yelling something I couldn't make out. A second later, lights flipped off, curtains yanked shut, and I was left standing alone in the dark in front of a man whose name I didn't even know, but who worked for the monster who'd ruined everything. I took a step forward. He tilted his head slightly, like he was surprised I didn't run. "Where is he?" I asked. The man didn't answer, just smirked, like I was the one who didn't understand how this game worked. But I wasn't playing games anymore. Behind me, another car screeched around the corner. Fast. Too fast. At first I thought it was backup from Marcus, but then I saw the shape in the driver's seat. Blonde hair, eyes locked ahead. Vera. The SUV man turned too late. She hit him at just the right angle. Clipped him hard enough to send him rolling over the hood, then crashing onto the sidewalk. He groaned but didn't get back up. Vera slammed the brakes, threw the door open. "Get in." I didn't argue. We sped off. Owen's family already pulling away in his car behind us. I watched their taillights disappear down the opposite road, my chest finally loosening after hours of suffocating tension. Owen had a chance now. Nadia was safe. That's all I cared about. "You hit him with a car," I said, still panting. She didn't look at me. "He'll live." I checked before I drove off. That's disturbingly comforting. Vera didn't smile, but her grip on the wheel relaxed. And for the first time in years, I saw something in her that wasn't fear or guilt or regret. I saw clarity. We didn't go back to the motel or the cabin or the garage. We kept driving until we crossed the state line, and then kept going. Crane sent us a message from a secure line. "You bought yourself time. Marcus is bleeding resources. He's in panic mode. Now's your window. End it or vanish for good." We chose the second option. We disappeared again. But this time, not as two broken people running from the wreckage they caused. We went as witnesses to each other's scars, as proof that pain doesn't have to be permanent. A few months later, we settled in a coastal town no one talks about. Vera works at a bookstore now. I do woodworking again. We don't use real names. We don't talk about the past much, but we both carry what we've lived through like armor. One night, I found her staring at the ocean, holding that old photo of me that had once had the red X across it. She'd taped over it. Not to hide the mark, but to cover it with a small hand-drawn heart. "I don't expect forgiveness," she said, not looking at me. "I just want to be useful again." "You already are," I replied. And for once, I wasn't just trying to comfort her. I meant it. Marcus disappeared eventually. Maybe Crane got to him. Maybe the weight of all his enemies finally crushed him. Or maybe he's still out there, lurking in the dark, waiting for one of us to slip. But if he ever comes again, we'll be ready. Because we're not the same people he tried to destroy. We're stronger now, quieter, sharper, and we've already survived the worst he had to offer.